every fish in the ocean will eat crab too. I've not met many fish that will not eat crab. In fact, I carry some really good small crab patterns every time I fish the flats for bonefish. If the bonefish are really tough to catch, I will throw the crab at them. The reason I don't throw the crab first is because when bonefish eat the crab, they usually inhale the thing. It'll be so far down you'll lose a finger that your crusher's trying to get it out. And those crabs cost $6.95 a piece also. Or take it about 40 minutes to tie up. Clouser minnow would be another fly. I don't go anywhere in the world without a clouser minnow. You know, I have some size 2s, some 1/0, some 3/0, white and blue, red and white, you know, just a variety of colors. They're an easy one to tie. And almost every fly shop has a good assortment. They probably caught more species than any other fly in the world. More important than the fly itself for me, the exception again, hermit, who are crab eaters and they are very picky on the flies, is the hooks. When I started saltwater fly fishing when I was a kid, all we had was, you know, not very good hooks. We used like Mustad 34007s. In fact, my first few trips to Belize in the late 80s, that's all we had too. And to hook a tarpon with this old hook was very difficult. You had to get out your file, do the best you could, and even when you did your best job, there was no match for today's laser sharpened hooks. They are chemically sharpened. You can see, you can't see very good here, but you can see the, oops, darn it, wrong button. Back up there. You can see the chemically sharpened hook is the one right here. It comes out of the box like that. Super sharp, longer, very small barb. Here's the old-fashioned hook. I took it, you know, I used to file them down, take it in my Dremel. Big barb, so when you're trying to sink it into a tarpon or something that has a mouth like this table I'm leaning against, it's almost impossible. And then if you dinged it on the side of the boat or something, it would be dull immediately. So chemically sharpened hooks are the way to go. They do cost more money, but you'll be very glad you invested in them. Even when you're buying flies, make sure they're good hooks. Last, polarized glass is a must. One of the things that I love so much about fishing the ocean is that a good 85% of it is seeing the fish first. So it's all a big hunt, especially when you're on the flats. But even in blue water, fishing around coral reefs, everything, you're going to see the fish. And you're going to have to make a good catch. So eyes are very important, and a good pair of glasses is essential. What color do I like best? Well, I like the coppers. Like the Action Optic copper colored glass lens sunglasses, they actually lighten and darken, and I found them to be almost perfect for like 90% of the situations I get in. But anytime you're going flats fishing, anywhere in the world, bring a pair of gray ones too. Because I have been on some flats, like Christmas Island, where you're on a flat that's 4 miles long, and it's a white sand bottom. At high noon, your eyes will begin to ache. And I'll put on my real dark gray sunglasses about 11 o'clock, and I'll leave them on until 3. It makes a huge difference. It'll keep your eyesight better, and that's what you need on the flats. A couple Jack Crevalles here cruising across the flats. Those guys are nothing but trouble. I'm sure we'll see a few in this presentation. They're one of my favorites. Okay, now we're going to break down the ocean into 6 categories. And we're going to talk about each category, my tactics, and the fish that I like to chase after. And the first place will be, we're going to talk about river mouths and estuaries. And I don't have that pictured in here because this is actually, this is Little Cayman Island. But I thought it was a great picture to put in right off the bat because it does show most of the water types. First of all, this island is 9 miles long. And I had a friend that was working down here, so one winter I went down and slept on his floor for about a month and a half. And all I did was chase permit. That's where I caught my first permit on fly. Learned a lot about permit bonefish, I'll tell you that. But once you come outside the river mouths and estuaries, the first thing you're going to meet is surf. And, you know, we have tons of surf around here. Millions and millions of miles of surf around the world. So anybody that saltwater fly fishes for any extended period of time is going to have to learn to fish the surf. And we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about flats. And this whole area in here are flats. And I caught a lot of bonefish there. Ran into some tarpon on occasions and caught some permit. Then we're going to go from the flats to kind of channels and blue holes, I call them. And that would be like, we have a beautiful channel going through the reef here from the blue water into the flats. A lot of big fish use channels to wait for fish that spook off the flats. And I'll show you some cool pictures there. Then we got the coral reef itself. An amazing place to fish, very underfished. Most people don't bother with it. And then last, we're going to end it out in the blue water, a place that really has just been pioneered in the last 15 years. A place that was once impossible to fish with a fly rod. So let's go to where I was born. This is Massachusetts. It's actually the border of Massachusetts and New Hampshire. This is the mouth of the Merrimack River. And I fished this all the time in the summertime. I was the luckiest kid in the world. And like I say, the striped bass fishing was terrible, but the blue fishing was remarkable. Now I go back and striper fish. I go back and visit my family who all live in New Hampshire now. About once every 3 years in the striper fishing, we just beat them up. But this is a jetty. And I will tell you, if anybody has not fished the ocean much, they see a jetty and they look at it as a great spot to walk out and fish, fly fish. All I can say is be very careful. They're incredibly slippery. Sometimes you might be looking at it in low tide, and at high tide, that water might come to within a foot of the top, and if there's big waves, more people drown at the end of jetties than probably any other place when they're wade fishing in the ocean, so be cautious. And my dad made me swear that I would never fish a jetty when I was a kid. God bless him, it's good that he was at work every day, because I was at the end of that thing all the time. That's where the bluefish were. Most of the stripers you catch are little schoolies like this. This is my wife and a friend of mine that guides out of Rhode Island. You can get into these guys like almost all the time nowadays. The fishing is so much better than it was. If you walk the beaches and you're patient and aren't afraid to walk 2 or 3 miles, you'll come, we call them slurpees because beyond the surface, almost it looks like they're slurping along, and you throw a popper out there and you'll nail them immediately. But if you're patient and walk, you will find slurpees. The bigger fish usually will be below the slurpees, or you have to get a little further out, or the tides will be just right. I always look for stripers. I like that incoming tide, because for some reason the big fish will come in looking for the bait fish that they're getting pushed out in the rivers, river mouths. And notice it's dark. A lot of times that best tide might be at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and the real serious striped bass fishermen will fish in the middle of the night to catch big fish like that. And that's it was a 30-pound fish. I think he bottomed out by 29-pounder D-Lyre at the time. Okay, this is where I really love though. This is the mouth of the Belize River. And I mentioned I spent a lot of time in Belize. Now that year that I did that first trip to Belize, when I was 20 years old, I practically got adopted by the people at Belize River Lodge. Has anybody been to Belize River Lodge? Somebody has back there. Well, there's a really big striper right there. Really cool place, and they have their lodge literally 4 miles from the airport, right on the Belize River, right on the edge of Belize City. Now, it doesn't sound like a good saltwater fishing destination because it sounds too close to civilization, but they throw you in that flats boat and you head out literally 5 miles out of Belize City and you are on them. I mean, tarpon, bonefish, snook everywhere. These people have got some great fishing right near home. But they invited me down the next year, and I taught their guides how to fly fish back in 1990, and brought a lot of my trout clients when I was guiding trout down here, and I've got a lot of great memories here. This is a ponga, which is a very popular boat for fishing out, fly fishing in Mexico. I love it because it's a long boat, and if you're blind fishing, you can actually have 2 fly fishermen going at the same time. Plenty of room for lots of gear, and I've been known to bring way too much gear. And the most often sought after fish in the mouth of the Belize River is the tarpon. And I could rate this guy truly as one of the #1 game fish in the world. It truly is incredible. I took this picture in Panama a number of years ago, fishing in a place called Bocas de Toro. I was in a dugout canoe, and my wife had told me we were going to chill out for a while because we had been living out of backpacks for a month and going all over Panama. And sure enough, a guy pulled up and asked us if we wanted to go for a boat trip. And I looked at his boat, and I said, "Nah, we're okay, buddy." He goes, "It's only $5 an hour." I said, "Can I bring my rod?" He goes, "Sure." So, next thing you know, I fished with this guy for 6 days straight, $25 a day, and we were catching tarpon out of his canoe. So it was like the ultimate saltwater fly fishing thing in my life. That's about a 25 or 30-pound tarpon, but what I want to show here is there's a technique used to jumping fish in saltwater called bowing. And if you look at the rod tip, it is pointing at the fish, and the fly line's all slack. You would never bow to a trout or anything because you want to keep a tight line. And when you bow to a saltwater